Too late to explain.
The clock read 4 a.m. when my phone lit up on the nightstand. Sleep wasn't happening anyway. Work stress had my brain running overtime about Monday's big presentation. Then I saw Emma's name flash across the screen and my stomach dropped. Emergency came up. Don't worry, I'll explain everything later. I stared at those words until they blurred. My wife, who obsesses over grammar and proofreads every single message twice, had just sent me a vague text in the middle of the night from wherever the hell she actually was. She was supposed to be at her sister's apartment, girls' weekend, she'd called it. Wine, movies, sister bonding. She'd be home Sunday morning, she'd promised. That's what she always said these days. Always another girls' night, another emergency, another friend in crisis who desperately needed her. I sat there in our bed, reading those words over and over. Emergency came up at 4 a.m. Don't worry. Like I could just roll over and go back to sleep like nothing was wrong. But here's what really got me. I wasn't shocked. Hurt? Absolutely. Furious? You bet. But surprised? Not even a little bit. The warning signs had been flashing like neon for the past 2 months. She'd started spending an unusual amount of time on her appearance before these casual nights out. Her phone lived face down on every surface now, when it used to sit openly on the counter. She'd picked up this new habit of showering the second she walked through the door, no matter what time she got home. And the fights, God, the pointless fights she'd start out of nowhere, almost like she needed an excuse to storm out angry. I could have called her sister Jennifer right then to verify the story, but what was the point? I already knew what the truth was. Instead, I typed back, "No explanation needed, stay with whoever you're with. Consider yourself single." I hit send before my brain could talk me out of it, because that's what this was, wasn't it? My wife had been sneaking around with some guy thinking I was either too trusting or too stupid to notice the obvious signs. My phone immediately started vibrating with incoming calls. I declined every single one and switched it to silent mode. 25 minutes later, I heard tires screaming into our driveway, then desperate pounding on the front door, then the doorbell, ringing nonstop like someone was having a mental breakdown on my porch. I took my sweet time getting dressed, put on a shirt, ran my fingers through my hair, walked slowly down the stairs. Through the peephole, I could see Emma standing there in the same cocktail dress she'd worn when she left yesterday afternoon. Her hair was a disaster, her makeup smeared everywhere, looking like she'd cried the entire drive home. "Please open the door!" Her voice cracked with desperation. "I can explain what happened! Just let me explain!" I unlocked the deadbolt, but left the security chain attached, cracking the door just wide enough to see her face clearly. "It's 4:30 in the morning," I said, keeping my voice eerily calm. "Interesting how you suddenly found time to race home. Baby, please, you don't understand what happened. You've got this all wrong." "I understand perfectly." My voice stayed level and cold. "You were supposed to be at Jennifer's place. You're clearly not. You sent me a sketchy text at 4 a.m., and now you're standing on my porch looking like you just snuck out of somewhere you shouldn't have been." She pressed her tear-stained face against the gap in the door. "It's not what you're thinking at all." Then enlighten me, because from my perspective, it looks exactly like you got caught. The tears came harder now. I was helping someone. A friend had a crisis situation. At 4 a.m? What kind of crisis? She hesitated, and that pause told me everything I needed to know. She needed someone to talk to. Her boyfriend dumped her and she was falling apart. Which friend are we talking about here? Another damning pause. Rachel. Rachel needed help. I almost laughed out loud. Rachel moved to Seattle 6 months ago. Try again. Her face went completely white. I meant Amanda. I got confused. Amanda needed help with what, specifically? She was having a complete panic attack. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. So at 4 a.m, Amanda called you instead of 911? Instead of her boyfriend? Instead of any of her other friends she's known way longer than you? She was sobbing openly now. "Please, just let me inside. Let me explain this properly, face to face." "You've had 30 minutes to rehearse this explanation. This is seriously the best story you came up with?" I could see lights flicking on in the neighbors' windows. Perfect. Let the whole street witness exactly what kind of person she'd chosen to become. "I'm telling you the honest truth." "No, you're really not, and we both know it." I started closing the door, but she threw her weight against it. "Where am I supposed to go? Back to wherever you just came from? Or maybe you should start being honest for once. She just kept crying, kept begging. But I'd already made my choice the moment I sent that text message. Some decisions can't be undone. And some people show you exactly who they really are when they think nobody's watching. My wife had just shown me everything I needed to see. She wasn't giving up, though. If anything, the desperation was escalating. Please, I'm literally begging you. Just give me 5 minutes to tell you what really happened. I looked at her through the narrow opening, still wearing that black dress I'd complimented yesterday evening. Those heels, she'd claimed, were surprisingly comfortable for a relaxed evening with my sister-in-law. Fine, 5 minutes, I said. Right here on the porch. Start talking. Can't we do this inside? The neighbors are watching? The neighbors are already awake thanks to your dramatic scene. Besides, you didn't worry about privacy when you texted me at 4 a.m. Start talking or I'm closing this door. She wiped her face with her hand, smearing mascara even worse. Okay, Amanda called me around 1 in the morning. She was having a complete breakdown about her job situation and... Stop right there. I held up my hand. Amanda works the night shift at the hospital. She's been on nights for 2 years straight. Why would she be freaking out about work at 1 a.m. when that's literally when her shift starts? Her mouth opened and closed like a dying fish. Also, I continued, Amanda's been dating that paramedic guy for almost a year now. Pretty serious relationship from what I've heard. So when exactly did this mysterious boyfriend breakup happen that you mentioned 30 seconds ago? I got confused. You meant you needed more time to invent a better lie. She slumped against the doorframe, looking defeated. You're not even trying to believe what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand how someone as smart as you thought I'd swallow this garbage story. You could have at least picked a friend whose work schedule I don't know by heart, or checked social media to see if anyone actually broke up recently. I wasn't thinking clearly when everything happened. No, you weren't thinking clearly hours ago, but that was then. You've had 25 minutes since to put together this explanation. A car cruised by slowly, probably Mr. Henderson from down the street heading to his early shift. He stared at us. I waved cheerfully. This is absolutely humiliating, she whispered. Is it? I hadn't noticed. She looked up at me with those eyes that used to make me forget whatever I was annoyed about. I know how this must look from your perspective, but I'm telling you the truth. How does it look from my perspective, Emma? Tell me. She was quiet for a long moment. Like I was cheating on you. Exactly like I was cheating, because I was cheating. I wasn't. Then where were you really? I told you, with Amanda. Great, give me her phone number right now so I can call and verify your story. Panic flashed across her features. She's probably asleep by now. She was awake enough for a crisis at 1 a.m. I'm sure she won't mind a quick follow-up call. I don't have her number memorized. I actually did laugh then. You don't have Amanda's number memorized? Amanda, who you've been friends with since college. Amanda, who was a bridesmaid at our wedding? She started crying again, but it felt different this time. Less panicked, more defeated. Where's your car? I asked, glancing past her at the driveway. What? Your car. You drove to Jennifer's yesterday. Where's your vehicle? She turned to look at her sedan, sitting in its normal spot. It's right there in the driveway. Interesting, because that car's been sitting there all night long, her entire face drained of color. I got up around midnight to grab a water from the kitchen, looked out the window. Your car was here. I figured you'd taken an Uber to avoid drinking and driving. Seemed responsible, actually. She was visibly shaking now. So if your car was here and you were supposedly at Jennifer's place clear across town, how exactly did you get back and forth? Did Amanda's crisis involve playing chauffeur? Because that seems like excessive back and forth for someone having a breakdown. I can explain that part. I'm absolutely certain you can. You're incredibly creative. Here's the thing, though. I already called Jennifer. The blood drained from her face completely. Called her about 25 minutes ago, actually, right after your touching performance started. Woke her up. She was extremely confused why I was asking if you were there, considering she hasn't seen you in almost a month. She sat down hard on the concrete step. She also mentioned you canceled your plans with her yesterday morning. Something about an important situation coming up. Funny how things keep coming up for you lately. I crouched down to her eye level. So let's try this one final time. Where were you? And this time, maybe consider the truth. It's actually easier to remember than lies. She was sobbing harder now, but I felt absolutely nothing. No urge to comfort her, no guilt about being harsh. Just mild curiosity about whether she'd finally be honest. She started, then stopped completely. Yes. I can't say it. Can't what? Can't tell the truth? Or can't face the consequences? She looked up at me and I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine fear. Not of me, but of losing everything she'd gambled away by making the choices she'd made. If I tell you the truth, she whispered, you'll never forgive me for it. If you don't tell me the truth, there's nothing to forgive. This conversation ends here, and you can spend the night wherever you spent the last 4 hours. She took a shaky breath. I was with someone else. There it was. Finally. I was with someone. I stood up slowly, brushing off my knees. There we go. See how much simpler honesty is? She was still sitting on the step, looking like her entire world had imploded, which, to be fair, it had. It's not what you're thinking. Let me guess, it just happened. You didn't plan it. You were feeling vulnerable. He was there. One thing led to another. I counted off on my fingers. Did I miss any of the classic excuses? She stared up at me in disbelief. How are you so calm right now? Because I'm not surprised. I already told you that. What does that even mean? I leaned against the doorframe. The late nights became more frequent about 2 months ago. Phone always face down became standard 3 weeks ago. The new workout obsession started last month. Very dedicated, by the way. Impressive commitment. Her jaw literally dropped. Oh, and the sudden interest in shopping trips. For someone who used to buy everything online, you sure started enjoying those long Saturday mall runs. Always coming home with bags from boutiques I'd never heard of. You were watching me. I was married to you. I noticed things. Like how you started styling your hair differently on specific days. Or how you jump in the shower the instant you got home from these mysterious errands. Or how you suddenly needed to charge your phone in the other room instead of on your nightstand like always. She was crying silently now. The funniest part was how you started picking stupid fights with me over nothing. Almost like you were trying to justify something to yourself. I wasn't trying to... Remember 2 weeks ago when you freaked out because I loaded the dishwasher wrong? We had this huge argument about it. You stormed out to clear your head and didn't come back until midnight. She nodded miserably. That was the night I knew for certain. Because in 8 years of marriage, you've never once cared about how I loaded the dishwasher. But you needed an excuse to leave angry, didn't you? I'm so sorry. For which part? The cheating, the lying, or getting caught? She didn't answer. So who is he? Does it really matter? It matters to me. I'd like to know who my wife chose over our marriage. She took a shaky breath. Derek. Derek from the accounting department. I actually laughed out loud. Derek Martinez, the guy who wears those cheap suits and thinks he's God's gift to women. No, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. I was still laughing. Derek. The same Derek who hit on Amanda at last year's Christmas party while his girlfriend was in the bathroom. It's not about him specifically. Oh, but it is. Because you didn't just cheat on me. You cheated on me with Derek Martinez. You know what that tells me about how little you valued what we had? She flinched like I'd physically struck her. I mean, if you're going to destroy your marriage, at least pick someone impressive. Someone who makes me think, okay, I can understand why she'd risk everything. You picked Derek. You're being cruel right now. I'm being honest. There's a significant difference. I pulled out my phone. Speaking of honest, I should probably call Derek's girlfriend. What's her name again? Brittany? No, please don't. Why not? She deserves to know what her boyfriend was doing tonight. Just like I did. Because it'll ruin everything. Everything's already ruined. You ruined it when you made your choice. She stood up abruptly. Tonight was one time, just tonight. How many other times were there? That's the only time, I swear. How long have you been seeing him? She looked away. How long, Emma? 6 weeks. 6 weeks of what exactly? Flirting, texting, meeting for coffee, or 6 weeks of tonight? Tonight was the first time we actually slept together. She nodded, without meeting my eyes. But you've been emotionally cheating for 6 weeks. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Walk me through your plan. Were you going to leave me for Derek or just keep sneaking around forever? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. You weren't thinking clearly for 6 consecutive weeks. That's a substantial amount of not thinking. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it. Interesting. That's my attorney texting back. Apparently, some people do answer messages at 4 a.m. Her eyes went wide with panic. Your attorney? I called him right after I called Jennifer. Left a voicemail. He's apparently an early riser. You called your lawyer before you even talked to me? I called my lawyer after you texted me at 4 a.m. because I knew exactly what that text meant, and I knew exactly what I needed to do about it. But what if you were wrong? What if it really was an emergency? Then you would have answered my first call, or my second, or my third. She sat back down on the step, looking utterly defeated. He wants to meet this morning at 9 a.m. I should probably get some sleep before then. Wait, you can't just... We need to talk about this more. We are talking about it. You cheated. You lied about it. You got caught. What else is there to discuss? What we're going to do now? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to divorce you. Just like that. Just like that. She started crying harder. What about marriage counseling? What about trying to work through this? What's to work through? You chose Derek over me. Tonight you chose him again by lying about it. Every single choice you've made for 6 weeks has been against our marriage. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a series of deliberate, calculated decisions. And now I'm making mine. I turned to go back inside. Where am I supposed to go? I suggest Derek's place, since that's apparently where you want to be anyway. He lives with Brittany. Then I guess you both have some explaining to do. I closed the door and locked it. I made it maybe 10 feet into the house before she started pounding on the door again. Please, I have nowhere to go. I ignored her and started a pot of coffee. If I was meeting with an attorney in a few hours, I might as well be alert for it. The pounding got more frantic. Then I heard her phone ringing, then more crying. Then her phone again. I was pouring my first cup when she started shouting through the door. He won't answer. Derek won't answer his phone. I opened the door again, coffee mug in hand. She was a complete mess. Mascara streaks everywhere, hair disheveled, that dress now wrinkled from sitting on concrete. His girlfriend probably found out, I called back. Funny how that works? This is insane. You're being completely unreasonable. I opened the door wider. Unreasonable? Let me see if I understand this correctly. You cheat on me for 6 weeks, lie repeatedly to my face, sneak around behind my back, and when you get caught, I'm the one being unreasonable? It didn't mean anything. If it didn't mean anything, why'd you do it? I don't know. That's not an answer. She pressed her hands to her face. I felt like we were just roommates, like the passion was gone. So instead of talking to me about it like an adult, you decided to find your passion with Derek Martinez. It wasn't supposed to be Derek specifically. It just happened. Nothing just happens. You made choices. Every single day for 6 weeks. You chose to text him instead of me. You chose to lie to me about where you were going. You chose to dress up for him. You chose to sneak around. I know, and I'm sorry for all of it. Sorry you did it or sorry you got caught. She was quiet. Because if you're just sorry you got caught, this conversation is pointless. I'm sorry I did it. Are you? Because an hour ago you were still lying through your teeth about it. I was scared. Of what? Of this. Of you hating me. Of losing everything. I took a sip of my coffee. You should have thought about that 6 weeks ago. Can't we at least try to fix this? People work through affairs all the time. Some people do. But those people are usually dealing with spouses who come clean immediately, show genuine remorse, and are willing to do absolutely anything to rebuild trust. I'll do anything it takes. Will you? Because 10 minutes ago, you were still protecting Derek by begging me not to call his girlfriend? She looked stricken. That's not the behavior of someone who's genuinely sorry. That's someone who's sorry they got caught and wants to minimize the damage to everyone except their betrayed husband. My phone started ringing. I looked at the screen. That's your mother. It's 5 a.m. and she's calling me. I wonder how she found out about tonight's drama. I answered on speaker. Hello, Carol. Emma called me crying, saying you locked her out of the house. What's going on? I looked at Emma, who had the grace to look embarrassed. Hi, Mom, she called weakly. Emma, what happened? He said you two are getting divorced. Carol, I said calmly, did Emma tell you why I locked her out? She said you had a fight. Did she mention where she was at 4 a.m. this morning? Silence on the other end. Did she mention she's been having an affair for the past 6 weeks? That's not... Emma, is that true? Emma started crying again. It was a mistake, Mom. A 6-week mistake, I added, with a coworker, while lying to me about girls' nights and sister visits. Oh, honey, Carol's voice was heavy with disappointment. Your father and I raised you better than this. Mom, please, you have to help me fix this. Fix this? Emma, you broke your marriage. You can't just fix betrayal like it's a broken dish. I found myself respecting my mother-in-law more in that moment than I had in years. Carol, I said, I'm meeting with an attorney this morning. I wanted you to know this decision isn't being made in anger. It's being made because trust, once broken like this, can't be repaired. I understand completely, she said sadly. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Thank you for saying that. Emma, you come home right now. Your father and I need to talk to you. After she hung up, Emma looked up at me with desperate eyes. Even my own mother is disappointed in me. She should be. This could have stayed between us. We could have worked through it privately. Is that what you wanted? To sweep this under the rug? I wanted a chance to make things right. You had chances. Every single day for 6 weeks, you had chances to make different choices. Every time you lied to me, you had a chance to tell the truth instead. But people can change. People can learn from their mistakes. I finished my coffee and set the mug down. You're not wrong. People can change, but you know what? I've changed too. I've learned that I deserve better than someone who needs to cheat on me to figure out what they want. So that's it. 8 years of marriage and you're just throwing it away? I'm not throwing anything away. You already threw it away when you chose Derek. Her phone started ringing again. She looked at it and her face fell. That's Jennifer. Mom must have called her. Answer it. I can't face her right now. You're going to have to face everyone eventually. Your choices don't just affect us. The ringing stopped, then immediately started again. Answer the phone, Emma. She did, reluctantly. Hi, Jennifer. I could hear her sister's voice through the phone, angry and disappointed. Are you insane? Are you completely out of your mind? Emma just cried. 8 years, Emma. 8 years with a good man and you threw it away for what? Some office romance? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You cheated, you lied, and now you're surprised there are consequences. I walked over and gently took the phone. Hi, Jennifer. I am so sorry, she said immediately. I'm embarrassed to be related to her right now. Thank you for saying that. Are you okay? I will be. Good. You deserve so much better than this. I handed the phone back to Emma, who was sobbing. Jennifer, please. No, you made your choices. Now you get to live with them. And don't expect me to feel sorry for you. The line went dead. Emma looked up at me, mascara streaking down her face. Everyone's going to hate me. Probably. How can you be so cold about this? I'm not cold. I'm just done being the only one fighting for our marriage. By 6 a.m., I had showered, dressed, and was reviewing documents for my lawyer meeting when 3 cars pulled into my driveway. Emma's parents, her sister Jennifer with her husband Tom, and Uncle Dan, who apparently felt qualified to mediate family crises despite being divorced twice himself. Through the window, I watched them have a heated discussion with Emma on the front lawn. Carol was clearly furious, pointing and gesturing while Emma cried. Uncle Dan was trying to play peacekeeper, and Jennifer looked like she wanted to strangle her sister. Eventually, they approached the door. I opened it before they could knock. Good morning, everyone. We need to talk, Uncle Dan announced like he was in charge. Actually, we don't, but I'm willing to listen for a few minutes before I leave for my appointment. Carol stepped forward. Can we come in? This doesn't need to be a public spectacle. I looked at Emma, still in that wrinkled dress, standing behind everyone like a scolded child. 5 minutes, I said, opening the door wider. They filed into my living room. Emma sat on the couch she'd helped me pick out 3 years ago. Everyone else remained standing except Carol, who took the chair across from her daughter. Look, Uncle Dan began, marriages go through rough patches. This isn't the end of the world. Isn't it? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, my wife chose another man over me for 6 weeks. That feels pretty final. People make mistakes. Uncle Dan, I interrupted, didn't you cheat on Aunt Patricia and then on your second wife? His face reddened. That's not relevant. Actually, it's completely relevant. You're asking me to take advice from someone who's been in Emma's position twice. Jennifer spoke up. He's right, Uncle Dan. Stay out of this, Jennifer, Carol warned. No, Mom. Emma screwed up majorly, and now she has to live with the consequences. But they love each other, Uncle Dan protested. I almost laughed. Love? Uncle Dan, if Emma loved me, she wouldn't have spent 6 weeks sneaking around with Derek Martinez. Who's Derek Martinez? Tom asked. The guy she's been sleeping with. Jesus, Emma, Tom muttered. Carol looked mortified. In our day, couples worked through these things. In your day, Carol, women didn't have as many options to leave bad marriages, and men didn't have to accept being disrespected just to keep the peace. But you're throwing away 8 years. I'm not throwing away anything. Emma already threw it away. Emma finally spoke up. I made a terrible mistake, but it's completely over now. Is it? I asked. Because 2 hours ago you were still protecting Derek by begging me not to call his girlfriend? I was scared. Scared of what? Facing the consequences of your actions? Uncle Dan tried again. Look, you're both upset right now. Maybe you should take some time apart, let emotions cool down. We're taking time apart. It's called divorce. But that's so permanent, Carol said. So is infidelity. Jennifer nodded approvingly. Tom was staring at Emma like he'd never seen her before. What exactly do you all want from me? I asked. To pretend this didn't happen? To act like 6 weeks of lying and cheating was just a rough patch? We want you to consider forgiveness, Carol said quietly. I have considered it. I've forgiven Emma. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to stay married to someone who betrayed me. That's not how marriage works, Uncle Dan declared. Actually, Uncle Dan, that's exactly how marriage works. When one person breaks the fundamental agreement of trust and fidelity, the other person gets to decide whether to stay or go. Emma was crying again. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Emma, what I want is a wife who doesn't cheat on me. That ship has sailed. People can change. Maybe, but I don't have to stick around to find out. Carol stood up. You're being awfully cold about this. Am I? Let me ask you something, Carol. If your neighbor came to you and said her husband was cheating on her for weeks, lying about it, sneaking around behind her back, what would you tell her to do? She was quiet. You'd tell her she deserves better, wouldn't you? You'd tell her not to accept that kind of treatment. That's different. How? Because you're family? No, Carol. Emma is family. I'm the guy she chose to betray. Jennifer stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Emma, you messed up. You lied. You cheated. You got caught. Stop asking everyone to clean up your mess. Jennifer, please. Emma, I'm embarrassed for you right now. This man has been nothing but good to you for 8 years, and you repay him by sneaking around with some loser from work. Derek's not a loser. The words were out of her mouth before she could stop them. The room went dead silent. Tom started laughing, actually laughing. Did she just defend the guy she cheated with in front of her husband? Emma's face went white. I didn't mean... Yes, you did, I said calmly. And thank you for that, because it proves everything I've been saying. Carol looked devastated. Emma, how could you? I was just... He's not a bad person. Neither am I pointed out. But that didn't stop you from betraying me. Jennifer was shaking her head. I can't even look at you right now. Uncle Dan made one last attempt. Look, emotions are running high. Why don't we all take a step back? Uncle Dan, I said firmly, I'm meeting with my lawyer in 2 hours. Emma can stay with you or her parents or wherever she wants, but she's not staying here. You can't just kick her out? Actually, I can. This house is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. She has no legal right to be here if I don't want her here. Emma looked shocked. The house is only in your name? We bought it before we got married. You never wanted to deal with the paperwork to add your name to the deed, remember? She did remember. I could see it in her eyes. So what now? Carol asked sadly. Now Emma packs some clothes and goes home with you. I file for divorce. We divide up 8 years of shared property and go our separate ways. Just like that. Just like that. Tom spoke up for the first time in a while. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this exactly right. Jennifer nodded. Me too. Carol looked at them approvingly. Maybe you are. Emma stood up shakily. Can I at least pack some things? Of course. Take whatever you need. She headed toward the bedroom, then stopped and turned around. I really am sorry, for all of it. I know you are, but sorry doesn't undo 6 weeks of choices. After she disappeared upstairs, Carol approached me. I failed her somehow as a mother. No, you didn't. You raised her with good values. She chose to ignore them. Will you be okay? Yeah, I'll be fine. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I genuinely believed that was true. 3 months later, I was sitting in my living room on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and reading the news on my tablet. The same living room where Emma's family had tried to convince me to take her back. The same couch where she used to curl up and watch movies with me on lazy weekends. But now it was just my living room, my couch, my peaceful Saturday morning. The divorce papers had been finalized 2 weeks ago. Emma had signed everything without contesting it, probably on advice from her lawyer, who knew she had no grounds to fight anything. The house stayed mine, as did my retirement accounts and most of our assets. Since she brought virtually nothing into the marriage financially, she'd moved in with her parents initially, which lasted about 3 weeks before her father got tired of her constant crying, and her mother got tired of making excuses for her to their friends. Last I heard, she was renting a small apartment across town, and still working at the same job where she'd met Derek. Speaking of Derek, that situation had imploded spectacularly. His girlfriend Brittany had indeed found out about the affair, but not from me. Apparently, Derek had a habit of cheating, and Brittany had been keeping track of his phone records. Emma wasn't his first affair, just his most recent one. Brittany had confronted both of them at work in front of half their department, according to my former colleague, Jason, who still worked there. It was legendary, apparently. Brittany had printed out text messages, photos, even hotel receipts she'd found. Emma had tried to claim she didn't know Derek had a girlfriend, which was a lie that fell apart when Brittany produced evidence that they'd all been at the same company events together. Derek got fired for creating a hostile work environment. Emma kept her job, but apparently became a pariah in the office. Nobody trusted her anymore, and her supervisor moved her to a different department where she wouldn't interact with people who knew about the scandal. The funniest part? Derek had moved on to another woman within 2 weeks of the blow-up, some bartender he'd met while drowning his sorrows after losing his job. Emma had apparently tried to contact him several times, but he blocked her number. She'd gotten exactly what she deserved. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the message style immediately. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I'm getting help. I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I made such terrible choices. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm trying to be a better person. I deleted it without responding. She'd tried reaching out several times over the past 3 months. Through text, email, even through Jennifer. I'd ignored all of it. There was nothing left to say. Jennifer had apologized for that, by the way. She'd called me a month after the divorce to tell me Emma had begged her to check on me and see if I was ready to talk. I told her she was delusional, Jennifer had said. You've moved on, and she needs to do the same. Jennifer was right. I had moved on. Not in the sense of dating anyone new. I wasn't ready for that yet. But in the sense of building a life that was entirely mine. I'd redecorated the house, gotten rid of furniture that reminded me of her, bought new things that reflected my taste alone. I'd reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage. Guys Emma had never liked because they were immature or bad influences. Turned out they were just normal guys who liked watching sports and playing poker and talking about things other than home renovation projects and couples' social dynamics. I'd started working out regularly, taken up hiking, even learned to cook properly instead of just grilling everything or ordering takeout. I was in the best shape of my life, both physically and mentally. Work was going well too, without the constant stress of wondering what Emma was really doing or who she was really with. I'd been able to focus completely on my career. I'd gotten a promotion last month with a substantial raise that more than covered the increased expenses of living alone. The house felt bigger without her stuff everywhere, but also more peaceful. No more arguments about household chores or social obligations or spending money on things we didn't need. No more walking on eggshells around her moods or trying to decode what she really meant when she said she was fine. Just quiet, honest, uncomplicated peace. My neighbor Steve knocked on the door around noon. Hey, you want to grab lunch? Linda's visiting her sister, and I'm tired of my own cooking. Steve had been a good friend through all of this. He'd never liked Emma much, said she seemed high maintenance, but he'd been too polite to say anything while we were married. After the divorce, he'd admitted he'd always thought I could do better. Sure, where do you want to go? That new burger place downtown. I heard they're supposed to be amazing. As we walked to his truck, he asked, How are you doing? Genuinely? Good, I said, and meant it. Actually better than good. Great. No regrets about the divorce? None? What about the marriage itself? I thought about that. I don't regret the marriage. I learned a lot about what I want and what I won't tolerate, and I'm grateful it ended when it did instead of dragging on for years. Fair enough. We drove in comfortable silence for a while before he spoke again. You know, Linda's sister has this friend. Not yet, Steve, but thanks. Fair enough, but when you're ready, let me know. Apparently, she's nothing like Emma. That would be a good start. We both laughed. Later that evening, I was grilling dinner on my back patio when I got a call from Carol. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello, Carol. Hi, I hope I'm not bothering you. Not at all. How are you? I'm fine. I wanted to call and see how you were doing. I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Good, I'm glad to hear that. She paused. I also wanted to apologize again for how things ended and for trying to pressure you to take her back. You were trying to protect your daughter. I understand that completely. I was. But you were right about everything. Emma made her choices, and you deserved better than what she gave you. How is she doing? Honestly, not well. She's struggling with the consequences of what she did, but that's not your problem anymore. No, it's not. I just wanted you to know that her father and I think you handled everything with more grace than she deserved. You could have made things much worse for her, and you didn't. I didn't want to make things worse. I just wanted them to end cleanly. They have. And I hope you find happiness with someone who appreciates what a good man you are. After we hung up, I stood on my patio looking out at my yard, my neighborhood, my life. Everything was exactly as I wanted it. Emma had texted me at 4 a.m., thinking she could manipulate the situation, control the narrative, minimize the consequences. She'd gambled that I'd be too hurt or too desperate to actually follow through on ending our marriage. She'd been wrong about everything. The best decision I ever made was sending that text. No explanation needed. Stay with whoever you're with. Consider yourself single. Because it turned out being single was exactly what I needed to be. And for the first time in years, I was genuinely, completely, undeniably happy.